Hello, social work team. My name is Javon Gonzalez. I'm the career development specialist over the social work department. Today, we are going to be talking about how to elevate your resume from bachelor's level to master's level. And we're also going to briefly touch on the differences between a CV and federal resume and when it is appropriate to use those two options as well. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump right into the PowerPoint. Okay, so as we get through today's PowerPoint, some of you may have questions regarding the content or may want to make an individual appointment with me or someone at Career Services. With that being said, this is the email you guys can use to either email those questions to or request to set up an appointment with me or another specialist. Okay. We're going to briefly talk about resume guidelines. And most of the guidelines that were used with your bachelor's level resume are still going to be there. So it is going to be 2 pages. I know many of you will have a lot of experiences and there's going to be a lot of things for you to put on your resume. We will talk through how to prioritize different experiences to make sure you're staying to that 2-page standard. Also want to make sure that we are still using clear and easy to read fonts such as Times Roman, Calibri, Helvetica are some of the most common, and we want to make sure that your font is no smaller than 11. I do suggest 12, but 11 is the bare minimum of what you can go on your resume. We want to make sure everybody can read it, and we have to account for those who work in HR that might have low vision or things of that nature. So we want to make sure it's easy to read for everyone. So stick to black and white, so black font, white paper, so that way it has the highest contrast for everybody to read. So some of the things that we want to avoid are still going to be similar from the past. So we don't want to have graphics, no pictures, want to make sure that it is top to bottom, 1 column only, no tables and things of that nature. So one of the things we're going to talk about is applicant tracking systems and why it's important not to have some of those things, because it skews the way the online readers read your resumes. And a lot of you will apply to positions that will go through some kind of applicant tracking system where the computer reads your resume first, gives you a matching score. So if you use graphics, if you have icons on there, sometimes even tables, when you have like 2 different sections where you might have education and experience on this side, it reads left to right. So it will see education, then it will see experience, and it will get everything jumbled and not clearly read what your experiences state. So with that, we want to keep it very clean cut, very easy to read. I will be going over an example that you guys are more than willing to copy. It's a template that we've made here at WVU, and that's going to be our main example. And you guys are welcome to have access to this document that we've created specifically for the MSW program. So with that, I'm going to get going and talk about some of the differences on, making this master's level. First of all, you're going to notice right from the beginning in the name section, you are going to add your new title. Okay. Everybody here, when you graduate, will be able to add MSW to your name. And then once you apply for your provisional license in the state you're headed to, you go ahead and add that provisional licensing acronym. Some of it might be LGSW. In other states, it may be different. Everybody uses different terms for their provisional licenses, and that's okay. Just put whichever one is most relevant to what state you're in. The next line in the contact information, you'll notice there is a new addition to the email address, phone number, and location. We're going to add your licensure information in here. Don't make them hunt like look and search through your resume for this information. You need to have your licensure information right at the very top, so that way they can verify it. Okay. It is one of the most important things that qualifies you for certain positions. So don't make them look for it. Put it right at the very tippy top. Okay. Education's next. You're going to want to make sure your master's of social work is at the top, because again, that's the qualification for many of the jobs that you're applying for, is a minimum of having a master's in social work. Things to consider: putting your GPA on there, and then also adding the accreditation body for the program. Okay. Some places and job descriptions will have it be a requirement that you graduated from a certain school with accreditation body. Okay. If it has that in there, go ahead and put a new line underneath Master of Social Work and add the accreditation line. So put accredited by, and then write the whole thing out. Don't use acronyms, just write the whole thing out. And then you can put the parentheses, the acronym if you want, but typing the whole acronym out for accreditation bodies is preferred. Okay. So experiences. This resume is geared towards the clinical experience. However, it is just to show you how tailored your resume can get and how descriptive it can be to showcase your new skill set. You can also do this for some of the other areas that your social work degree can get you into, such as the macro areas as well. But this one, I just went with the clinical area to show you. Okay. So first of all, for clinical, you guys need to tell them what populations you've worked with, what kind of disorders you've worked with. You can even talk about the different theories that you've utilized in this section. It is up to you what you want to put, but you can go very in depth with your descriptions. Okay. Don't make them guess about what clientele and services you provided. Even if like you worked for a well-known agency that did certain type of services, don't make them guess. Tell them exactly what you did and what you ran. Okay. So if you did individual and group, make sure you talk about what you did with individuals, what you did with group. If you had other duties beyond just the therapeutic realm, go ahead and talk about that. If you worked on it, the interdisciplinary team did outreach, or crisis counseling, if you did assessments, talk about all of that good stuff in this section and really pull that information out. You are searching for 4 to 5 strong bullet points for your descriptions under experience. Okay. 4 to 5 strong. Okay. I'm not going to go back into the second little section, but I do want to touch on the macro. So if you are macro, make sure you talk about all of the things that you have done. If you've done program evaluation, grant writing, if you worked on a policy team, if you advocated and went and organized community outreaches, things of that nature, show them that skill set, the macro skill set, which is the one that you're going to be using or aiming to use in the future for jobs. Okay. So just hit them from the other angle to display all of those advanced skills and abilities that you gained in that area. Okay, volunteer experience. This is one area that sometimes we need to cut down when you have a lot of experience. Okay, I put 2 volunteer experiences that directly related to the clinical world, because again, we were gearing this resume towards a clinical path. And with that, I made sure to only put 2 volunteer experiences that were really relevant to what a clinical therapist could see in the future or could have roles in the future. Okay. So if we were going towards a macro level, I would change these. These are not the 2 that I would pick. If we had other organizations, especially if we did a lot more nonprofit work and did a lot more advocacy, I'd be choosing those ones over these 2. Okay. I'd also pick whichever one is most relevant. So what I mean by that is if you are, applying for a job that's doing policy making on bereavement leave, I would still choose the Family Grief Center just because the topic is relevant. Maybe the work you did in there wasn't the most relevant to that job, but I would pick it based on content, that the content is so relevant to what you're applying for. So like I said, pick and choose, which is something that we can work on together and pick to make sure that the experiences you're putting on your resume support what your goal is. Okay, this is the fun section. This is going to be new for almost all of you. I don't know how many of you will have this, but this one is going to be exciting because it's going to be on there forever. Okay, professional development. As a social worker, everybody here is going to be doing CEUs for the entirety of your career. What we're going to be looking for in this section is to put the trainings, the conferences, seminars, workshops that are relevant to the specialty you want to go into, okay? Because many of you will have 20 plus hours of CEUs a year. There's a lot of things that you guys will get exposed to and have to participate in. Again, pick and choose the most relevant ones to the path you want to take. Okay. You are not obligated to put all your professional development on your resume, just the ones that support your desired goal and dream job. So if I was going to work with children, my goal was working with adolescents, children, I would go ahead and pop in a play therapy workshop, a parent-child interaction therapy workshop, really aim for the ones that support what your goal is. Okay, skills. This one is where you will differentiate yourself. Okay, as social workers, you have an increased skill set, both in the therapeutic world, but also in the macro skills world. So push yourself to think about what theories, modalities, and approaches you want to put on here if you're aiming to go the therapeutic route. If the job posting states that they specifically use certain theories, modalities, or approaches with their clientele, and you are comfortable and confident in that modality, put it as one of the first things in the skill section. So that way they're not searching for that. Make sure it's right front and center. Same thing with the macro skills. Do a good inventory of all your macro skill sets, and then make sure you place the ones first that are most important to that job. So you just might have to rearrange these sections just a smidge to support what that job is looking for. And that's how we're going to tailor the skill set section. Languages. If you have a language, make sure you put if you're fluent, conversational, things of that nature. If you put that you are fluent in a language and you are going to do a therapeutic role, just be aware that they will be expecting you to be able to deliver therapy in that language. Okay, so do use with caution if you are second guessing how well your ability is. Ask yourself, do you want to deliver therapy in that language, or do you feel comfortable enough? Okay, because if you're not, put conversational, because then you could still interpret phone calls, maybe talk with patients, family members, still use the language in a conversational means, and maybe even help translate forms, but won't be expected to necessarily deliver therapy in that language. Okay, only helpful hint, because I do know a lot of bilingual therapists, and that is one of the things that they come up with is if somebody says that they're fluent in a language, a company most of the time will expect you to be able to deliver therapy in that language. Okay. So additional resume sections that we can consider, and these are just a few. There are many more out there that I think are very plausible for social workers, but these are just some of the ones that come to mind. Adding a research section, teaching experience, grant writing, advocacy, and activism are some of the ones that we may want to consider depending on what your goal is. So don't discount these. These are a few others that we can add in there. It just really depends on what your goal is. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about tailoring the resume as we've been talking throughout these sections. So there is a helpful site, jobscan.co. You can get 5 free scans a month. And I would say make sure you save your scans for the jobs you really are aiming for. So like more of the goal dream jobs, because the scans go by very quickly. It will give you a matching percentage telling you how much you're matching the job description to your resume. You are looking for an 80% match for this. Some of the things you can do to prep your resume for tailoring is carrying over the verbiage they use in the job posting over to your resume. So if they put, if they put deliver counseling, instead of putting deliver therapy, switch it over to counseling, use their term, because therapy and counseling can be interchangeable. Same thing with facilitated. If they use facilitated in their job description for groups and you put ran groups, that's easy to facilitate groups versus run groups. Think about how their verbiage and what they say in their job posting can be translated onto your resume. And it's very simple, easy switches most of the time, okay? Look at the skills too. They're going to list some soft and hard skills on that posting and see where you can fit that in through your experience section, volunteer, and then that skills section as well, okay? So think about where you can put some of those skill sets. I'm going to caution you though, if you put soft skills down in a skills section, such as communication, teamwork, that's not where it should go, okay? Any soft skills should be shown in your experience sections. So tell them that you communicate effectively with 20 to 30 clients per day through email, phone, and in-person communications. So show them that communication and how you can do it if they're asking for a soft skill. Don't just list it. Okay, that's one of the biggest downfalls of the skill section, is it should stay to your hard skill set, which is gonna be your macro and your therapeutic techniques. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about those 2 other resumes, that types of resumes we were talking about at the beginning, and where we use them. So if you are looking to do federal work, both therapeutic wise, so like the VA is very huge, you'll also get some therapeutic roles around military bases and things of that nature. USA Jobs is the place to go for that. And you're going to want to use a federal resume. We do have a social work / counseling example on the Career Services webpage to show you how you would implement a federal resume for the therapeutic areas. However, that same template can be used and turned into the macro resume, because there's a lot of federal jobs for policy, grant writing, running different programming such as HUD. I mean, there's a whole lot of them. I mean, there's a massive amount of macro jobs federally, which is very exciting. But you just want to make sure you're using the correct resume when applying for these jobs. And we do have those examples, okay? So don't worry, we have your back. The next resume type is going to be a CV. CVs are a hybrid in between federal and traditional resumes, where they take more of the look from a traditional resume, but they have the length of a federal resume. What I mean by that is that you don't have to pick and choose your experiences on a CV. CVs are all inclusive of the skills that you have and the experiences you've grown from. And so we don't have to pick and choose that volunteer section. We can list all of the trainings and CEUs you've gone through. It's going to be more exhaustive, and you might end up having, anywhere between 2 to 5 pages or even more. I've seen longer ones. And so it's a bit longer. The caveat is CVs are only used in academia. Okay. And if you're applying to a PhD program, I highly suggest you create a CV. If you're applying for any teaching jobs at universities, that's when you're going to really pull out the CV as well. So there's only really one area that you would use a CV in, and that's academia. Okay. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to email us and contact us with those questions or concerns. Again, you can always make individual appointments to get your resume reviewed. We also do mock interviews, salary negotiation. We're very expansive in the services that we offer related to career. And we're here to assist you with whatever you may need in the professional development realm. So please let us know if you need anything else. Have a great day. Bye.